Billionaire Dad asked the poor girl what she wanted for Christmas. Her answer brought him to tears. Derek Harrington had everything. At least, that's what the magazines said. Forbes, a Fortune's Business Weekly. They all featured his face on their covers with headlines like Derek's Empire or The Man Who Turned Millions into Billions. CEO of Harrington Enterprises, a relentless investor, a respected philanthropist. At 36, he was the kind of man people pointed to on the street and whispered, "That's Derek Harrington." But no one whispered about the rest. No one knew that he woke up at 5:30 in the morning because he couldn't sleep properly anymore. That he walked through the halls of his own house like a stranger. That the huge mansion, with its impeccable gardens and infinity pool, was the loneliest place he knew. Silence. It was always silent. That Thursday morning, Derek adjusted his tie in front of the hall mirror and checked his watch. 6:15. The driver should already be waiting. He picked up his leather briefcase, gave his reflection one last look. Grey suit, hair in place, impeccable posture, and turned toward the door. He paused for a moment. He looked at the staircase leading to the third floor. All quiet. Derek took a deep breath and left. In the back of the black Mercedes, he stared out the window as the driver navigated the morning traffic. People on the sidewalks, children with backpacks, parents holding their children's hands, life happening outside. He looked away. 2 hours later, on the third floor of the silent mansion, Lila began to wake up. She stirred under the pink comforter, rubbed her light-colored eyes, and slowly sat up in her king-size bed. Her blonde hair was messy, falling across her face. She looked around. The room was full of toys, dolls piled in the corner, stuffed animals on shelves, a 3-story dollhouse with blinking lights, everything new, everything expensive, everything still. The door opened. "Good morning, Princess." Sandra came in with a smile that was a little too wide. "Did you sleep well?" Lila didn't answer right away. She just looked at the nanny, then at the door. "Where's Daddy?" Sandra hesitated. "Oh, sweetie, your father already left. He went to work very early today." "Again?" "Yes, love. He works a lot, doesn't he? But he left a little kiss for you." Lila looked down. "He always leaves early." Sandra came closer and sat on the edge of the bed. "I know, sweetie. But he thinks about you all the time. Come on, let's have breakfast. I made pancakes." Lila slid out of bed, her bare feet touching the soft carpet. She followed Sandra into the hall, then down the stairs, holding onto the railing. The house was enormous. White walls, crystal chandeliers, everything impeccable, everything empty. In the giant kitchen, Sandra placed the plate in front of Lila. Pancakes with chocolate syrup, just the way she liked. "There you go. Eat it all up, okay?" Lila picked up her fork and started eating slowly. Sandra washed the dishes, humming, but she glanced at the girl from time to time. She was so quiet, so small at that huge table. "Oh, you know what we can do today?" Sandra tried to cheer her up. "Play outside, or paint. You love to paint." "Okay. Or we could put together that new puzzle your father bought." "Okay," Sandra sighed. Lila never complained, never cried. She just accepted everything with that quiet little voice and those eyes that seemed to be waiting for something that never came. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Derek entered the mirrored building of Harrington Enterprises. Quick greetings in the elevator, polite nods in the hallway. Anne, his secretary, was already waiting for him with the printed schedule and a cup of coffee. "Good morning, Mr. Harrington. The 8 o'clock meeting has been moved up. The contracts for the Morgan project are on your desk. Mr. Greaves has called 3 times. Thank you, Anne." He entered his office and closed the door. The room was spacious, modern, with a panoramic view of the city, awards on the shelves, minimalist paintings on the walls. Everything in its place, everything perfect, except for the picture frame turned face down on the corner of his desk. Derek sat down, opened his laptop, and dove into work. Emails, reports, spreadsheets, video calls with investors, a meeting with the board, a business lunch that dragged on for 3 hours. The day went by fast when he left no room to think, when he left no room to feel. At 6 in the evening, everyone had already gone home. The office was quiet. Derek leaned back in his leather chair and closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his gaze fell on the face-down picture frame. The silver frame gleamed under the lamplight. He could turn it over, he could look. He could remember her smile, her voice, how everything made sense when she was around. His hand moved. His fingers touched the cold edge of the metal, but he didn't turn it over. He never did. Derek pulled his hand back, grabbed his briefcase, and left. At home, Lila was in the playroom with Maria, the afternoon nanny. There was a giant puzzle on the rug. Lila was fitting the pieces one by one, while Maria scrolled on her phone on the couch. "Is it almost done?" Maria asked without looking up. "Yes, that's good, sweetie." Lila placed the last piece. The puzzle showed a family, a father, a mother, 2 kids, a dog, all smiling under a tree. She stared at it for a long time. Then she got up and went to the window. Down below, the garden was empty. The pool still, no sound, no movement. When Derek got home, it was already past 9. The house was immersed in its usual silence. Lights on, empty hallways. He went up the stairs, passed by Lila's room, and stopped. The door was slightly ajar. He peeked inside. Lila was lying down, hugging a teddy bear. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing was calm. Derek stood there for a few seconds, just watching. Then he continued to his own room, took off his suit jacket, loosened his tie, and sat on the edge of the bed. On the nightstand, there was another picture frame, also turned face down. He looked at the object, then looked away. He lay down, turned off the light, and closed his eyes. That's when he heard it. "Daddy." The voice was very quiet, coming from the hallway. Derek opened his eyes. Lila was standing in the doorway of his room, holding her teddy bear, her blonde hair disheveled, her light-colored eyes shining in the dark. "What is it, honey?" He sat up in bed. "Doll, you're not sleeping." "I woke up." She stood there, too small in that enormous hallway. "I wanted to say good night." Derek felt something tighten in his chest. He looked at the little girl, at those eyes that were so much like her mother's. "Come here." Lila slowly crossed the room and stopped beside the bed. Derek gently stroked her hair. "Good night, my daughter." Lila smiled, a small but real smile. "Good night, Daddy." She turned and left the room, going back to her own floor. Derek stayed there, sitting in the dark, listening to her little footsteps fading down the hall. Then he lay down again, but this time it took a little longer for him to close his eyes. The traffic was impossible. Derek stared out the Mercedes window as the car moved a few feet and stopped again. Horns blaring, engines revving, people crossing between cars. A typical Thursday in downtown. "Sorry for the delay, Mr. Harrington," the driver said, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. "There's an accident up ahead. It's going to take a while." "No problem." Derek went back to looking at his phone. Emails, reports. There was always something to read, something to solve. It was easier that way, keeping his mind busy, not thinking, not feeling. The car stopped again, red light. That's when he saw them. Outside, on the sidewalk next to the traffic light, there was a woman and a little girl. The woman held a box of candy, offering it to the passing cars. She was young, maybe around 30, with a tired but clean face. Brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail, modest but neat clothes, and next to her, a little blonde girl. The child couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Light hair falling over her thin shoulders, huge blue eyes. She held her mother's hand with one hand and Bo with the other, held out small packets of candy to the passing drivers. Most of them didn't even look. Derek just watched. He didn't know why. There was something about that scene that captivated him. The little girl smiled even when people ignored her. She waved. She tried again. The car next to him sped off as soon as the light turned green, almost bumping into them. The mother quickly pulled her daughter back. Derek felt something tighten in his chest. "Sir," the driver looked in the rearview mirror. "The light is green." "Wait." Before he could think, Derek rolled down the window. The woman approached, holding the box of candy. Her smile was polite, but tired. "Good afternoon, sir. Would you like to buy some candy?" Derek looked at her, then at the little girl beside her. The child's light-colored eyes stared at him with curiosity. "How much is it?" he asked. $2 a pack. 3 for $5. Derek took out his wallet and pulled out a $50 bill. "Keep the change." The woman's eyes widened. "Sir, that's too much. You don't have to give it back." Derek took 3 packs of candy without really looking at them. Then he turned his attention back to the little girl. She was still staring at him, standing quietly beside her mother. There was something in that gaze, something he recognized. Loneliness. Derek didn't know what came over him in that moment. Maybe it was the way the girl looked at him. Maybe it was the exhaustion of pretending everything was okay. Maybe it was just an impulse. "You can ask for anything you want," he said, looking directly at the child. "What do you want for Christmas?" The girl blinked. She looked at her mother, then back at Derek. "Me?" she asked in a tiny voice. "Yes, you." The mother put a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Daisy, you don't have to." But the little girl was already speaking. Without thinking, without a filter, with that brutal honesty only children have. "I wish you were my dad." The world stopped. The sound of the traffic disappeared. The horns, the voices, the engines, everything became distant, muffled, as if Derek were underwater. He stared at the girl, at those huge blue eyes that looked at him without malice, without calculation, just pure truth. The mother turned red. "Daisy, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, sir. She's just a child. She doesn't know what she—" But Derek wasn't listening. All he saw was that little blonde girl, with her light hair blowing in the wind, holding her mother's hand as if it were the only solid thing in the world. And those words, "I wish you were my dad." Derek had heard many things in his life: million-dollar business proposals, exaggerated compliments, desperate pleas, but nothing had ever broken through his defenses like that. Nothing had ever hurt so much. The light turned green. The car behind him honked. "Mr. Harrington." The driver turned, concerned. "Are you okay?" Derek blinked. He came back to reality. The traffic noise returned. The city started moving again. He looked at the woman, who was still red-faced, clearly embarrassed. "I'm really sorry. She didn't mean—" "It's okay." Derek's voice came out hoarse. He cleared his throat. "It's okay." Another car honked, louder this time. "We have to go, sir." The driver was tense now. Derek nodded. He took one last look at the little girl. She was still staring at him, not quite understanding what had happened. The window rolled up. The car moved forward. Derek sat still in the back seat, holding the 3 packs of candy whose flavor he didn't even know, staring ahead, breathing slowly. "Mr. Harrington." The driver looked in the rearview mirror. "Are you okay?" "Yes." But his voice sounded distant. "I'm fine." A lie. Nothing was fine. The words kept echoing in his head. "I wish you were my dad." Derek closed his eyes. He tried to concentrate, to think about something else. Work, meetings, contracts, anything. But he couldn't. All he could see were 2 pairs of light-colored eyes. 2 faces of little blonde girls, one at the traffic light holding her mother's hand, afraid of getting lost, the other at home, alone amidst a mountain of expensive toys. 2 children, 2 different kinds of loneliness. The car continued through traffic. Derek kept looking out the window, but he no longer saw anything. He just thought about the girl at the traffic light who wanted a father, about his daughter at home who had a father but lived alone, and about himself, who had everything and nothing at the same time. His phone vibrated in his pocket. He looked at it. A message from his secretary about a meeting. Derek locked his phone. For the first time in 5 years, work was the last thing he could think about. "Sir, we've arrived." The driver stopped in front of the company building. Derek looked out the window. The mirrored building, imposing, with the name Harrington Enterprises, shining in golden letters. His empire, his fortress, his prison. "Thank you." Derek got out of the car and entered the building, but his steps were slower, his mind heavier, and in the pocket of his suit jacket were still the 3 packs of candy he didn't even remember buying. In the elevator, alone, Derek looked at his own reflection in the mirror. Impeccable suit, tie in place, combed hair, straight posture. Perfect on the outside, broken on the inside. The doors opened. He stepped out, walked down the hall, entered his office, and there it was, on the corner of his desk, the picture frame turned face down. Derek sat. He stared at the object for a long time. Then, slowly, he reached out his hand. His fingers touched the cold frame, but he still didn't turn it over. Not today, not now. But something had changed. Inside his chest, where there had once been only emptiness and work, there was now a crack, small, almost imperceptible, but it was there. And through the gaps of that crack, for the first time in 5 years, something was beginning to seep in. Maybe it was pain, maybe it was guilt, or maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something that felt like hope. When Derek arrived home that night, it was already past 8. The mansion was as quiet as ever. Lights on in the empty hallways, not a sound. He entered, dropped his briefcase in the hall, and loosened his tie as he climbed the stairs. The day had been long, endless meetings, decisions that needed to be made, contracts to review. But none of that occupied his mind now. All he could hear were those words, "I wish you were my dad." Derek stopped in the second-floor hallway and took a deep breath. He needed to stop thinking about it. It was just a child. An innocent phrase. It meant nothing, but it did. He knew it did. "Mr. Harrington." Sandra appeared at the end of the hall, smiling. "You're home early today. Lila will be thrilled." Derek looked at her. "Is she still awake?" "She is. She's in the playroom. Do you want me to call her?" "No need. I'll go up." Sandra nodded and went down the stairs. Derek stood for a moment, looking at the staircase that led to the 3rd floor. Then he went up. The playroom door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open slowly and went in. Lila was sitting on the floor, surrounded by scattered colored pencils. There was a large piece of paper in front of her. She was drawing with concentration, her tongue sticking out, her blonde hair falling over her face. Derek stood in the doorway, just watching. She was so small. "Hi, Lila." The girl looked up. Her light-colored eyes shone when she saw him. "Daddy!" She got up too quickly, tripped over her own feet, but soon ran to him. Derek knelt, and she threw herself into his arms. "You're home." "I'm home." He stroked her hair. "What are you doing?" "Drawing." Lila pulled away and ran back to the paper on the floor. "Emmett, look." Derek approached and looked. It was a simple drawing made with colored pencils, 2 figures holding hands, one tall, in a suit, the other small, with long hair, the sun in the corner, blue clouds, flowers on the ground. "It's me and you," Lila pointed proudly. "We're taking a walk." Derek stared at the drawing. Something tightened in his chest. "It's beautiful. I made it for you." Lila picked up the paper and held it out to him. "You can keep it." Derek took the drawing. He looked at the 2 figures holding hands, at the smile Lila had drawn on his face. "Thank you, honey," Lila smiled. Then she was quiet for a moment, fiddling with her fingers. She looked at the floor, at her father, back to the floor. "Daddy?" "Yes." "Can you play with me today?" Her voice was quiet, shy, as if she was afraid of the answer. Derek looked at his daughter, at those light-colored eyes, full of hope. And then he looked at his watch. He still had emails to answer, reports to review, a presentation to prepare for tomorrow's meeting, work that couldn't wait. "Not right now, sweetie," the words came out automatically. "Daddy's busy." The light in Lila's eyes faded. "Okay." She didn't cry. She didn't complain. She just lowered her head and went back to the colored pencils on the floor. Derek stood there for a second. He wanted to say something. He wanted to take it back. He wanted to sit on the floor and play with her. But he did none of that. "I'm going to work in the office for a bit. Then Sandra will put you to bed, okay?" "Okay, Daddy." Her voice was even quieter now. Derek turned and left the room. He slowly closed the door behind him. In the hallway, he stopped. He stood there, looking at the drawing he still held in his hand. 2 figures holding hands. He folded the paper and put it in his suit jacket pocket. Then he went down to his office. The room was dark. Derek turned on the light, sat in the leather chair, and turned on the computer. The screen lit up, showing dozens of unread emails. He opened the first one, started to read, but the words didn't register. All he could see was Lila's face, her eyes fading, her head lowering. "Can you play with me today?" "Not right now, sweetie." Derek closed his eyes and rubbed his face with his hands. Why was it so hard? Why couldn't he just be a normal father? Play, talk, be present. He knew the answer. It was easier to work. Easier to hide behind meetings and contracts and important decisions. Easier than facing the truth. The truth that he was alone. The truth that he had failed. Derek opened his eyes and looked at the face-down picture frame on his desk. 5 years. 5 years since everything had fallen apart. Since she had left and left a hole that nothing could fill. He had tried. He had thrown himself into his work. He had built an empire. He had given Lila everything. Toys, clothes, the best school, the best house, the best of everything except himself. The phone rang. Derek answered without thinking. "Hello?" "Mr. Harrington, it's James. About tomorrow's meeting." Derek half listened, responded on autopilot, hung up. He stared at the computer screen. Then, without knowing why, he reached into his pocket and took out the folded drawing. He opened it on the desk. 2 figures holding hands, smiling. And then, like a lightning bolt, the words came back. "I wish you were my dad." The girl from the traffic light, the light-colored eyes, the hand holding her mother's tightly. And Lila, upstairs, alone among the toys. Can you play with me today?" "Not right now, sweetie." The 2 sentences mixed in his head. A child who wanted a father, another who had a father but was alone anyway. Derek looked at the face-down picture frame, then at the drawing, then at his own empty hands. When she had died, he had sworn he would do everything right, that he would take care of his daughter, that he would give her everything she needed. But he had failed. Not for lack of money, not for lack of resources, for lack of presence, for lack of him. The absence of her mother and his own absence now mingled in his guilt. An old pain and a new pain, joining into a weight he no longer knew how to carry. Derek sat there, alone in his office, looking at the drawing of a little girl who just wanted her father's attention. And for the first time in 5 years, he allowed himself to feel the pain, the guilt, the regret, to feel everything he had tried to bury under work and meetings and contracts. Upstairs, Lila was lying in bed. Sandra had just left after saying goodnight. The girl stared at the ceiling, where little stars glowed in the dark. She had drawn her father smiling, but he never really smiled. She had drawn them holding hands, but he never held her hand. Lila turned on her side and hugged her teddy bear. "Good night, Daddy," she whispered into the emptiness. And she closed her eyes, alone in the enormous room, waiting for a day when maybe her father would stay. Down in the office, Derek kept looking at the drawing. And for the first time in a long time, he realized he had given his daughter everything, except the one thing she really wanted, himself. Derek woke up differently that morning. He hadn't slept well. He had stared at the ceiling for hours, thinking about the drawing, about the words of the girl at the traffic light, about Lila alone in her room full of toys. At 6 in the morning, he gave up trying to sleep. He showered, got dressed, but didn't put on his usual suit. Dark jeans, a dress shirt without a tie, something simpler. He went down to the kitchen. The house was silent. Sandra wouldn't arrive until 7. Derek made coffee and stared out the window. The sun was beginning to rise, the empty garden outside. He took his cup and went up to the 3rd floor. The door to Lila's room was slightly ajar. He pushed it open slowly and peeked inside. She was still asleep, hugging her teddy bear, her blonde hair spread across the pillow. Derek stood there for a moment, just watching. Then he went downstairs, grabbed his car keys, and left. He drove himself this time. No driver. No intermediaries. He took the same route as yesterday, crossing through downtown. The traffic was already starting to get heavy. Derek stopped at the same traffic light as yesterday. He looked at the sidewalk, empty. He waited for the light to turn, drove on and went around the block. He passed by again. Nothing. Derek parked on a nearby street and walked back. He walked along the sidewalk, looking around, and then he saw them. At the corner, under a tree, there they were. The woman with brown hair was holding the box of candy. The little blonde girl was beside her, holding out packets to the people passing by. Derek took a deep breath and approached. The woman saw him first. Her eyes widened in surprise. "Sir?" The little girl looked up. She recognized him. "It's you!" Derek stopped in front of them. "Hi." The woman looked awkward. "Sir, about yesterday, my daughter didn't mean to..." "It's okay." Derek held up his hand. "Really? It's okay." There was a silence. The little girl looked at him with those huge blue eyes. Curious. "I came to buy more candy," Derek said. The woman blinked. "More?" "Yes, I ran out of the ones from yesterday." It was a lie. The 3 packs were still untouched in his office drawer. The woman took a few packs and held them out. "How many would you like, sir?" "About 10. He paid, took the packs, then he just stood there, not quite sure what to do. The woman looked at him, clearly confused. The little girl just smiled. "What's your name?" Derek asked. She hesitated. "Natalie." "And her?" "Daisy." Derek knelt down to the girl's level. "Hi, Daisy." "Hi," she smiled, showing her little teeth. "How old are you?" Daisy held up one hand, fingers spread. 5. "Same age as my daughter." Daisy's eyes lit up. "You have a daughter?" "I do. Her name is Lila." "Is she nice?" Derek smiled. A real smile. "Very nice." Natalie watched the conversation, quiet. There was something in her eyes, tiredness, but also dignity. She wasn't asking for pity. Derek stood up. "How long have you two been selling here?" Natalie tucked her hair behind her ear. "About 2 years." "Every day?" "Most days." She looked at Daisy. When she's not in school. And when she's in school, I come alone." Derek nodded. "Is it hard?" Natalie gave a tired smile. "It's life. We do what we have to do." There was no self-pity in her voice, just fact. Derek looked at Daisy, then back at Natalie. "Look," he began, not sure what he was going to say. "I know this is going to sound strange, but I'd like to invite you to dinner." Natalie blinked. "What?" "At my house, Christmas Eve." "Sir, I can't." "It's not charity." Derek spoke quickly. "It's selfishness, actually." Natalie frowned. "What do you mean?" Derek looked at Daisy, then back at Natalie. "Yesterday, when your daughter said that about wanting me to be her dad, it got to me. I thought about it all night." He took a deep breath. "I have a daughter at home who has everything, but she doesn't have the one thing that matters. She doesn't have a present father. And when I saw you two here, I realized something." "What?" "That my daughter has what yours wants, and your daughter has what mine needs." Natalie was silent, processing. "Your daughter wants a father. My daughter has a father, but lives alone." Derek put his hands in his pockets. "I thought maybe you could have dinner with us. It would be good for Lila to have company. And for me, I think it would be good to see what a real family looks like." The words came out raw. Too honest. Natalie looked at him for a long moment. "Studying him? Why would you do that?" she asked. "Because yesterday your daughter made me realize I'm failing my own." Derek didn't look away. "And because I think you two remind me of something I'd forgotten." Natalie looked at Daisy. The girl had sat down on the ground and was drawing something with her finger in the dust on the sidewalk. "I don't know, sir." "Derek, call me Derek." "Derek." She tested the name. "Look, it's very generous, but I want you to come to my house." He spoke firmly. "It will be important for us, for me and for Lila." Natalie hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I am." She was quiet for another moment. Then she looked at her daughter again. "Okay," Natalie said finally. "We'll go." Derek felt something lift from his chest. "Really? Really? But only if you promise one thing." "What?" "That it won't be weird, that it won't be out of pity, that it will just be dinner." Derek nodded. I promise. Natalie smiled, a small but real smile. Derek took a card from his pocket and wrote his address on the back. Christmas Eve, at 7. We'll be there. He handed her the card. Natalie took it and put it away carefully. Thank you, she said softly. Thank you. Daisy ran back. Mommy, look, I sold 3. Natalie smiled and ruffled her daughter's hair. That's great, honey. Daisy looked at Derek. Are you leaving? I am, but I'll see you soon. When? In a few days. You and your mum are coming to my house for dinner. Daisy's eyes lit up. Really? Really? Will your daughter be there? She will. Then I'm going to like it. Daisy jumped, excited. Derek smiled. Then he looked at Natalie one last time. See you soon. See you soon, Derek. He turned and walked back to his car. On the way, he felt something different, something light, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He got in the car, started the engine, and drove home. But before pulling away, he looked in the rearview mirror. Natalie and Daisy were still there, working together, smiling, alive. And Derek realized they had nothing, but they had everything. Christmas Eve arrived faster than Derek expected. The mansion was different. He had asked Sandra to decorate the dining room, but nothing too over the top. Just a few candles, a nice tablecloth, fresh flowers in the center. Simple. At 6:30, Derek came downstairs. Black dress pants, a white shirt with no tie, nothing too formal. Lila was in the living room, sitting on the couch, swinging her legs. She was wearing a light blue dress Sandra had picked out. Her blonde hair was tied back with a ribbon. Daddy, are they coming soon? She asked for the 5th time. Sazuten, honey. And is the girl really 5 years old? She is. And her name is Daisy. It is. Lila smiled, excited. Derek hadn't seen her like this in a long time. At 7 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. Lila jumped off the couch. It's them! Derek went to the door, took a deep breath, opened it. Natalie was standing on the doorstep, holding Daisy's hand. She wore a simple dark green dress, clean and well pressed. Her hair was down, falling over her shoulders. Daisy wore a little pink dress, her blonde hair in 2 pigtails. Her blue eyes sparkled with curiosity. Hi, Natalie said, a bit awkwardly. Hi? Derek smiled. Please, come in. Natalie and Daisy entered slowly, looking around. The mansion was huge, crystal chandeliers, a grand staircase, everything immaculate. Daisy's eyes widened. Wow, it's big, isn't it? Derek knelt to her level. But don't worry, it's just a house. Daisy nodded, still impressed. That's when Lila appeared, half hiding behind her father. Her light-colored eyes watched the girl who was the same age as her. Hi, she said softly. Daisy looked at her, then smiled. Hi. Are you Lila? Daisy asked. I am. I'm Daisy. I know. My dad told me. The 2 girls looked at each other for a moment. Daisy took a step forward. Your dress is pretty. Yours too. Do you want to play with me? Lila looked at her father. Derek nodded encouragingly. I do, Lila said, and for the first time in a long time there was a different sparkle in her eyes. Come on, do you have dolls? Daisy was already excited. I do, a lot of them. I love dolls. The 2 girls smiled at each other. Daisy held out her hand. Lila took it. And just like that, as if they had known each other for years, they ran up to the playroom. Derek and Natalie stood in the hall, watching the girls go up the stairs. I think they're already friends, Natalie said, smiling. It seems so. There was a silence. Natalie looked around again, clearly uncomfortable with so much luxury. Come on, I'll show you the kitchen, Derek said. I still need to finish a few things for dinner. Can I help? Of course. Natalie followed Derek to the enormous kitchen, marble countertops, state-of-the-art appliances, everything gleaming. Derek had prepared almost everything earlier. Roast chicken, potatoes, salad, but there were still things to finish. What needs to be done? Natalie asked, already looking for an apron. Just need to finish seasoning a few things. Set the table. Let me help. They worked side by side. Natalie moved around the kitchen naturally, arranging plates, organizing silverware. There was no hesitation. Just someone used to working, to getting things done. "Do you cook often?" Natalie asked as she arranged the napkins. "Not really. Usually it's Sandra, my employee, but today I wanted to do it myself." "It smells good. I hope it tastes good too." Natalie smiled. "I'm sure it will." While Derek finished seasoning the food, Natalie continued to help. She grabbed the right things without needing to be asked. She organized everything carefully. "Thank you for inviting us," Natalie said suddenly. "Really, I don't know why you did it, but it means a lot." Derek stopped what he was doing. "I should be thanking you for coming. Daisy hasn't stopped talking about it all week. She's never been in a house like this. She's never had anything like this. Lila couldn't stop asking about you either." Natalie looked at him. "She seems like a sweet girl." "She is." Derek went back to stirring the pot. "Very sweet and very lonely." The tone of his voice made Natalie stop what she was doing. She looked at him, waiting. Derek took a deep breath. "I lost my wife when Lila was born. Since then, I don't know, I threw myself into my work. I thought if I gave her everything, it would be enough. But it wasn't. It wasn't." Natalie leaned against the counter. "I understand." Upstairs, laughter echoed. The girls' voices blended together, happy. "Life was never easy," Natalie began, looking at her own hands. "I always worked. I always raised my daughter with love and respect." She paused. "We don't have luxury. We don't have a big house or expensive toys, but she knows she's loved. Every single day, she knows it." Derek stopped stirring the pot. He turned to her, just listening. "Her father left me when he found out I was pregnant," Natalie continued, her voice steady. "He never wanted to know her. In the beginning, it was very hard. I was scared. Scared I wouldn't make it. Scared I would fail her. But you didn't fail." "No." Natalie smiled faintly. "Because I had no choice. When you look at your daughter and see that she depends on you, you find strength you never knew you had." Derek nodded, feeling every word. "I work selling candy because it's what I can do and still take care of her. It's not a dream job, but it pays the bills. And at the end of the day, when I come home and Daisy runs to hug me..." Natalie paused, her eyes shining. "It's worth it. It's all worth it." Her voice was firm, no self-pity, no shame, just pure truth. Derek felt something tighten in his chest. Admiration, respect, something he hadn't felt in a very long time. "You're strong," he said. Natalie shrugged. "I am what I need to be, just like you." "Me? You're trying. You're here. You invited us. You want to be present for your daughter." Natalie looked him straight in the eyes. "That's already a lot." Derek fell silent. No one had ever said that to him before. No one had seen the effort behind the absence. Upstairs, the laughter continued, running footsteps, excited voices. "They seem to be getting along well," Natalie said, looking up at the ceiling. "They really do. Daisy needs this, to have a friend, someone her own age. Lila does too." They went back to working together, finishing everything. The table was set. The food was warm. Derek looked around. Everything was simple. Nothing elaborate, nothing sophisticated, but it was perfect. For the first time in years, that huge kitchen didn't feel empty. There was someone there, someone helping, someone who talked for real. Derek looked at Natalie, who was carefully arranging the flowers in the center of the table, and for the first time in a long time, he truly felt at home. Not because the house was big, not because it had everything, but because in that moment there was life inside it. There was warmth, there was truth. And that was worth more than anything he could ever buy. The dinner was simple but full of life. Derek served the plates while the girls chattered excitedly. Daisy told stories from school, making exaggerated gestures. Lila laughed, her eyes shining in a way Derek hadn't seen in a very long time. Natalie watched her daughter with a gentle smile, occasionally glancing at Derek. He would return the look. There was something different in the air, something light. "This is delicious," Natalie said, tasting the chicken. "Thanks. I'm no chef, but I get by." It's better than a lot of things I've eaten in restaurants. Derek smiled. A genuine smile. Daisy devoured her food with gusto. Auntie, did you see how many dolls Lila has? A ton, and she has a giant pink dollhouse you can go inside. I saw, honey. That's cool, isn't it? And she let me play with all of them. Lila smiled, proud. That's because you're my friend. Am I really? You are. The two exchanged a knowing look and went back to eating, giggling quietly to themselves. Derek watched everything in silence. That table, which had always been too big and too empty, was now full. Not with expensive food or sophisticated decorations. It was full of people, of laughter, of life. When they finished eating, the girls asked to play a little more. Derek and Natalie agreed. But just another half hour, okay? Natalie said to Daisy. Then we have to go. Okay, Mummy. The two ran back to the playroom. Derek and Natalie stayed in the kitchen, washing the dishes together. They worked in comfortable silence. Occasionally, they exchanged a few words, nothing forced, just natural. Thank you for tonight, Derek said, drying a plate. Why? I should be the one thanking you. Because... Derek paused, searching for the right words. Because it's the first time in years that this house has felt like a real home. Natalie looked at him. Her eyes were soft, understanding. I get it. And she did. She really did. Upstairs, in the playroom, the girls were sitting on the floor surrounded by dolls. They had played house, school, and party. Now they were quieter, just talking. Your house is really pretty, Daisy said, looking around. It's big, Lila replied, but it's very quiet. Quiet how? There's no noise. My dad works a lot, so it's just me and the nannies. Daisy was silent for a moment. Then she looked at Lila. You're lucky, Lila frowned. Why? Because you have a dad. The words came out quietly, but they were heavy. Lila looked down at her hands. I have one, but he never has time for me. Daisy picked up a doll and started fiddling with its hair. Distracted, I wish I had a dad so bad. Any dad, just to know what it's like. What's like? To have someone who protects you, who plays with you, who calls you his daughter. Daisy paused. My mum is amazing. She does everything for me. But sometimes I see other kids with their dads and I wonder what it must be like. Lila was quiet, looking at Daisy, then at the doll in her own hands. My dad gives me everything, she said slowly. Toys, clothes, everything I want, but... Her voice broke. But I just wish he would stay with me. The two looked at each other. Silence. They didn't need to say anything more. In that moment, they understood each other in a way only children can. Without judgment, without explanation, just pure understanding. Daisy held out her hand. Lila took it. Can we be real friends? Daisy asked. We can, I want to. Me too. They smiled at each other, then went back to playing, but now there was something different, something deeper, a connection. Half an hour later, Natalie went up to get Daisy. Honey, we have to go, Daisy pouted. Already? It's getting late. Come on. Daisy got up slowly. So did Lila. Can you come back? Lila asked, her voice full of hope. Daisy looked at her mother. Natalie smiled. Of course she can. Promise? Promise? The girls hugged, a tight, long hug. When they came downstairs, Derek was waiting in the hall. Natalie picked up her purse. Thank you for everything, she said. It was a special night. For me, too. Daisy approached Derek. She looked up at this tall man who had been kind to her, who had asked her questions, who had smiled for real. She just stood there, looking. Then, in her tiny but firm voice, she said, Thank you for being my dad for a day. Derek felt his chest tighten. Daisy continued, her blue eyes shining. Today I felt what it's like to have a complete family. The world stopped. Derek looked at that little blonde girl, with her eyes full of innocence and truth. The same words that had pierced his defenses at the traffic light now came back, but with a different weight. It wasn't just a request anymore. It was gratitude. Derek slowly knelt down to her level. His eyes were moist. Thank you for coming, he said. his voice hoarse. Daisy smiled. Then she threw her arms around him. Derek hugged her back, tightly, as if he were hugging all the things he had failed to do, all the times he had failed. Natalie watched, moved. Lila did too, not fully understanding, but sensing that this moment was important. When Daisy let go, she looked at Derek one last time. "You're a good dad." "Lila is lucky." Derek couldn't answer. He just nodded. Natalie took her daughter's hand. "Yes, let's go, honey." They left. Derek and Lila stood at the door, watching the car drive away into the cold night. When the door closed, the house returned to silence. But it was a different kind of silence. It was no longer empty. It was full of unspoken things, of silent promises, of something that had changed. Lila looked up at her father. "Daddy?" "Yes, honey." "Did you like them?" Derek looked at his daughter, at those light-colored eyes that were so much like her mother's. "I liked them a lot. Can they really come back?" "They can." Lila smiled, a huge, genuine smile. "I really liked Daisy. She's my best friend now." "That's great, honey." Lila came closer and hugged her father. Derek picked her up, even though she was getting too big for it. "Thank you, Daddy. It was the best night." Derek closed his eyes, feeling the light weight of his daughter in his arms, the smell of her hair, the small warmth of her body. "For me too, honey, for me too." He carried her to her room, put her in bed and tucked her in. "Good night, my daughter." "Good night, Daddy." Derek turned off the light and left. In the hallway, he stopped. He leaned against the wall and took a deep breath. Daisy's words still echoed. "Thank you for being my dad for a day. Today, I felt what it's like to have a complete family." He had given her something she never had, and she had given him something he had forgotten, the feeling of being needed, of mattering, of being present. Derek went down to his office, entered, turned on the light. The picture frame was there, on the desk, turned to face him now. Her face looked back at him, smiling. Derek sat and looked at the photo for a long time. He didn't say anything. He just sat there, feeling. Then he turned off the light and went up to his room. He lay down, and for the first time in a long time, he slept without the crushing weight of guilt, because for the first time in a long time, he wasn't just existing, he was living. Derek woke up early the next morning, but this time was different. It wasn't the alarm clock, it wasn't anxiety. It was a decision. He got up, showered, and got dressed. No suit, jeans, a simple t-shirt, sneakers. He went down to the kitchen and made coffee. He looked out the window. The sun was beginning to rise, painting the garden gold. He took his cup and went up the stairs. On the third floor, he stopped in front of Lila's bedroom door. It was slightly ajar. He pushed it open slowly and peeked inside. Lila was sitting on the floor in her pajamas, surrounded by dolls. She was talking to them quietly, making up different voices for each one. Alone, as always. Derek knocked lightly on the door. Lila looked up. Her light-colored eyes widened when she saw him there. "Daddy? Hi, honey. You didn't go to work." Derek entered the room and sat on the floor next to her. Lila looked at him, confused. "I didn't. Why?" Derek took a deep breath. He looked at his daughter, at those innocent eyes that expected so much and asked for so little. "Honey, I'm sorry." Lila blinked. "Sorry for what?" "For not being here. For working too much. For not playing with you." His voice was steady but heavy with emotion. "For making you feel lonely in your own home." Lila was quiet, just watching. "Today is just for us," Derek continued. "I promise to be more present." Lila's eyes lit up. "Really? Really? The whole day? The whole day?" Lila dropped the doll she was holding. "You're not going to answer the phone or look at the computer?" "No. What if they call from work?" "I won't answer." Lila was still for a second, as if processing this. Then, slowly, a huge smile spread across her face. "For real, for real." Derek smiled back. "For real, for real." Lila threw herself into his arms. Derek hugged her tightly, feeling her small weight, the smell of her hair. "Thank you, Daddy." Her voice was muffled against his chest, but Derek heard every word. "What do you want to do today?" he asked. Lila pulled away, her eyes shining with excitement. "Can it be anything?" "Anything." "Then, play with dolls." Derek looked at the pile of dolls around them. He knew nothing about playing with dolls, but it didn't matter. "Let's play." They spent the first hour there, on the bedroom floor. Lila directed the play, creating elaborate stories. Derek did the voices she asked for, even if he felt awkward. Lila laughed every time he got the tone wrong. "Not like that, Daddy. The prince has to have a deeper voice." Derek cleared his throat and tried again, using a ridiculously deep voice. Lila burst out laughing, just like that. Then they went to the art room. Lila got out large paper and colored pencils. "Can we draw together?" "Let's do it." They sat side by side. Lila started drawing flowers. Derek tried to draw a house, but it came out crooked. "It's pretty, Daddy," Lila said, "even though the house looked more like a square with a collapsing roof. Yours is much better." "But yours was made with love." She looked at him seriously. "My teacher says drawings made with love are always beautiful." Derek felt something tighten in his chest. They drew for almost an hour. Lila made a drawing of the family, her dad, Daisy, and Natalie, all holding hands. Derek looked at the paper and smiled. "It's beautiful, honey. It's us with our friends." "Our friends?" "Yeah. Daisy is my friend, and Auntie Natalie is yours, right?" Derek thought about it. "Yeah, I guess she is." Around noon, they went to the kitchen. "Should we cook together?" Derek suggested. "Really? Really? What do you want to make?" Lila thought. "Pancakes." "Then let's make pancakes." Derek got the ingredients. Lila pulled up a chair to be taller and help. She cracked the eggs, even though she missed and dropped shells into the bowl. Derek picked out the pieces without complaining. "Now stir," he instructed, handing her the wooden spoon. Lila stirred with all her might, concentrating, her tongue sticking out. "Is it looking good?" "It's perfect." They made a mountain of pancakes. Some were burnt, others were misshapen, but Lila thought they were all works of art. They ate at the kitchen table, just the two of them. Lila poured too much syrup and got her mouth messy. Derek wiped it with a napkin, laughing. "You're all sticky." "You too!" Lila pointed to a splash of batter on his shirt. Derek looked down. She was right, he was a mess, and he didn't care one bit. In the afternoon, they went out to the garden. Something Derek hadn't done in years. "Can we play tag?" Lila asked. "We can." She took off running, laughing. Derek chased after her, pretending he couldn't catch her. Lila shrieked with joy, running in circles on the lawn. When he finally caught her, she was out of breath from laughing so hard. "Daddy, you're slow." "No, I'm not." "You're just too fast." They collapsed on the grass, looking up at the sky. The clouds drifted by slowly. "That one looks like a bunny," Lila pointed. "Where?" "Right there. See the ear?" Derek looked. He didn't see a bunny at all, but he agreed anyway. "You're right, it's huge." Lila turned her head to look at him. "Daddy?" "Yes?" "Thank you for today. You don't have to thank me, honey. But I want to." She smiled. "You're different today." "Different how?" "You're really here." The words were simple, but they carried enormous weight. Derek turned on his side to face her. He stroked his daughter's blonde hair. "And I'm going to try to be here more, okay? Promise." "I promise." Lila smiled. A different smile. Lighter. More genuine. For the first time, she didn't seem like a child waiting for something that never arrived. She seemed like a child being a child. They stayed in the garden until the sun began to set. Then they went back inside, tired and happy. That night, Derek made pasta. Simple, with tomato sauce. Lila helped prepare the salad, cutting the tomatoes with a plastic knife. They had dinner together, talking about their day, about the crooked pancakes, about the bunny in the clouds, about everything and nothing. When she finished, Lila yawned. "I'm sleepy. Come on, I'll take you to bed." Derek carried her up the stairs. Lila rested her head on his shoulder, her eyes already closing. In her room, he gently placed her in bed, covered her with the comforter, kissed her forehead. Good night, my daughter. Lila opened her eyes a little. Daddy? Yes? Today was the best day of my life. Derek felt a lump in his throat. For me too, honey. She smiled and closed her eyes again. Derek stayed there for another moment, just watching her sleep, her peaceful little face, her calm breathing. Then he left, closing the door softly. In the hallway, he stopped, leaned against the wall. A whole day. Just one day, but it had been enough to show him everything he had been missing. Derek went down to his office, but he didn't turn on the computer. He didn't pick up his phone. He just sat in his chair and looked out the window. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel guilty for not working. He felt peace for having been where it really mattered, with his daughter. The next day, Derek woke up with a strange feeling. It wasn't anxiety. It wasn't the usual weight. It was anticipation. He went down to the kitchen and found Lila already at the table, still in her pajamas, swinging her legs. Good morning, Daddy. Good morning, honey, he smiled. Did you sleep well? Very well. And today? What are we going to do? Derek poured her some juice. I thought we could go out. Take a walk downtown, get some ice cream. What do you think? Lila's eyes lit up. Really? Really? Just the two of us? Just the two of us? Lila jumped from her chair and hugged her dad. I'm going to get ready. She ran up the stairs. Derek stood there, drinking his coffee, listening to her hurried footsteps on the floor above. An hour later, they left. Derek driving, Lila in the back seat, humming quietly. She wore a yellow dress and her blonde hair was tied back with a white ribbon. Downtown was bustling, people walking back and forth, shops open, music playing somewhere. The bright sun lit up everything. Derek parked and helped Lila out of the car. She held his hand tightly. Which way are we going? Let's just walk, see what we find. They walked along the sidewalk. Lila stopped at every shop window, pointing at things, asking questions. A doll, a dress, a coloring book. Derek answered everything patiently, smiling every time she got excited. That's when she stopped suddenly. Daddy, look. Derek followed her gaze. Across the street, sitting on a bench under a tree, were Natalie and Daisy. Natalie held a shopping bag on her lap. Daisy was beside her, eating what looked like a sandwich. The two were talking calmly, enjoying the shade. Lila let go of her father's hand and started waving. Daisy, Daisy. Daisy looked up. She recognized her. Her blue eyes lit up. Lila! She handed the sandwich to her mother and took off running. The two met in the middle of the sidewalk, laughing, hugging as if they hadn't seen each other in months. Derek crossed the street slowly. Natalie had stood up, adjusting her bag. Hi, she said, a little surprised, but with a smile on her lips. Hi. Derek smiled back. What a coincidence. It really is. Natalie looked at the girls. They look like sisters when they see each other. They really do. There was a brief silence. It wasn't uncomfortable. Just the two of them watching their daughters. Natalie tucked her hair behind her ear. Were you two out for a walk? Yes. I thought I'd take her for a walk. Show her the city. Get some ice cream. That's nice. That's when Lila ran back, pulling Daisy by the hand. Both their eyes were shining. Dad, can we invite Daisy and her mum to come with us? Derek looked at Natalie. She looked awkward, clearly not wanting to impose. We don't want to intrude, Natalie said quickly. You were having a father-daughter moment. Of course. Let's all go together. Natalie blinked, surprised. Are you sure? I'm sure. Derek looked at the girls band who were already holding hands, hopeful. It'll be better this way. More fun. Natalie hesitated for another second. Then she smiled. Okay then. Yay! The girls jumped, celebrating. Where were you headed? Natalie asked as they started walking together. Nowhere specific. Just a walk. Maybe get some ice cream. Ice cream! Daisy shouted, excited. I want ice cream too, Lila agreed. Then let's get ice cream, Derek said, laughing. They walked through the streets, the four of them together, the girls in front, holding hands, chattering non-stop about dolls and cartoons, Derek and Natalie behind, in comfortable silence. Every now and then, Derek glanced at Natalie. She was watching her daughter with a soft smile. There was something different about her today, more relaxed, lighter. "How was your day yesterday?" Natalie asked. "It was good. I spent the whole day with Lila. She must have loved that." "I think so. We played with dolls, drew, made pancakes." Derek laughed. "I burned half of them." Natalie laughed too, but I bet she thought they were perfect anyway. She did. That's how it works. When you're present, the rest doesn't matter much. Derek looked at her. "That's true. And you?" he asked. "How was your day?" Natalie shrugged. "Normal. I worked in the morning, sold at the traffic light until noon. In the afternoon, I was home with Daisy. We watched a movie, played a little. She seems happy today." "She is. She hasn't stopped talking about Lila since the dinner party." They found a small diner, one of those old-fashioned ones with formica tables and colorful chairs. Nothing fancy. The paint was peeling in some corners, but it was clean and cozy. It smelled of fresh coffee. They sat at a table near the window, the girls on the same side, Derek and Natalie on the other. The sun streamed through the glass, illuminating everything. "What do you girls want?" Derek asked. "Chocolate ice cream," Lila said. "Me too," Daisy agreed. Derek looked at Natalie. "And you?" "Oh, I don't need—" "Natalie." Derek interrupted her gently. "What do you want?" She hesitated, then smiled. "Strawberry ice cream, then—" "Great, I'll go order." Derek went to the counter. He ordered 4 ice creams and 4 milkshakes. The waitress, a friendly older woman with grey hair, smiled at him. "Beautiful family," she commented. Derek opened his mouth to correct her, but then he just smiled. "Thank you." He went back to the table. The girls were already drawing on napkins with colored markers the waitress had given them. Natalie watched, relaxed. When the ice creams arrived, the girls dug in with gusto. They got their mouths messy, laughed, and made a mess. Daisy had chocolate on her nose, Lila on her cheek. Derek and Natalie ate slowly, watching, exchanging amused glances. "Thank you for this," Natalie said softly. "Why?" "For including us, for being kind, for making my daughter smile like this." "You don't have to thank me," Natalie looked at him. "Yes, I do. You have no idea what this means to Daisy. And to me, too." Derek was silent for a moment. Then he looked at the girls. "I think you two helped me more than you can imagine." Natalie frowned. "What do you mean?" Derek took a deep breath. It wasn't easy to talk about this, but something about that moment made it feel safe. "You remember I told you I lost my wife?" "I remember. It was when Lila was born. Complications during childbirth." His voice got quieter. "She didn't make it." Natalie placed her hand over his on the table, a simple gesture, but filled with empathy. "I buried myself in work to avoid the pain," Derek continued. "I thought if I worked hard enough, if I gave Lila everything, she would be happy. Expensive toys, pretty clothes, the best school. But it wasn't like that. It wasn't." Derek looked at his daughter. "Only now do I see that what she needed most was for me to be present, not my money, not the gifts, just me." Natalie squeezed his hand. "You're here now. That's what matters." The girls continued to laugh, oblivious to the conversation. Natalie looked down at her own ice cream. She stirred it with her spoon, thoughtful. Then she took a deep breath. "Daisy's father left me when I was pregnant," she said suddenly. Derek looked at her. He said nothing, just waited. "We were in a relationship. Nothing serious, but I thought it had a future." Natalie gave a sad smile. "When I found out I was pregnant, I was scared but also happy. I told him, thinking he would be happy too. And he wasn't. No, he disappeared, moved to another city a week later, blocked my number. He never wanted to know about her, never sent a penny, never asked if she was born healthy. I'm sorry." "Don't be," Natalie shook her head. "In the beginning, it was very hard. I was 23, no family nearby, no money saved. I was scared. So scared of raising a child alone, of not being able to do it." She paused, looking at Daisy. "But when she was born and I looked into those little blue eyes, everything made sense. All the fear disappeared. I knew I could do it. For her. And you did. I did, Natalie smiled. I closed my heart to other relationships. I didn't have time. I didn't have the energy. And honestly, I didn't want to risk it again. I dedicated everything to her. Every minute. Every cent. She looked at Derek. But there was always love. Always. Even on the hardest days, when money was tight, when I was too tired, there was always love. And she knows it. Derek nodded, feeling every word. I look at her, and I see everything I did right, Natalie continued. We don't have luxury. We don't have a big house. But she knows she's loved, and that's worth more than anything. Their two stories were different, but deep down, they carried the same weight: pain, loss, fear, and love above all else. Derek looked at Natalie. She looked back. Two adults carrying different pains, recognizing each other in the silence. These were not words of pity. They were not empty promises. It was just understanding real deep true. You're strong, Derek said. You too. They stayed like that for a moment, in silence, their hands still connected on the table. It was Daisy who broke the moment. Mommy, can I have more ice cream? Natalie laughed, letting go of Derek's hand. You've already had a whole one, but it's so good. Let her have some, Derek said. Today is a day for treats. Natalie smiled. Okay, but just a little more. Derek ordered 2 more small ice creams for the girls. They celebrated as if they'd won the lottery. While they ate, Derek and Natalie talked about simple things, about work, about the girls, about movies they liked, about music. And Derek realized something. He felt light. For the first time in years, being with someone didn't feel like an obligation. It didn't feel like work. It was just natural. When they finished, they left the diner. The girls ran ahead, playing tag. Derek and Natalie walked behind, watching. They look like sisters, Natalie commented. They really do. I don't think Daisy has ever had a friend like this. So real. Lila hasn't either. They stopped at a small playground. The girls ran to the swings. Derek and Natalie sat on a wooden bench, watching. The sun was lower now. There were other children playing, parents chatting, life happening around them. Thank you for today, Natalie said. Shayek, you've already thanked me 3 times. And I'll thank you again, she smiled, because it's true. Today was special. Derek looked at her, at this woman who had been through so much and could still smile. It was for me too. Natalie turned her head, looking at him. Her eyes were soft, and Derek felt it. Something was changing, slowly. But it was. They stayed at the park for over an hour. The girls played non-stop. The slide, the swings, the seesaw. Derek and Natalie talked, laughed, and shared stories. And in the middle of that simple day, in that ordinary park, something began to form. It wasn't love. Not yet. It was something more subtle. It was connection. 2 people who recognized each other's pain. 2 people who found comfort in each other's presence. As the sun began to set, it was time to go. The girls complained, but they obeyed. Can we do this again? Daisy asked. Of course, Derek answered without hesitation. Natalie looked at him, grateful. They said their goodbyes. Daisy hugged Lila. The 2 promised to see each other soon. Natalie approached Derek. Thank you. Really. It was my pleasure. They looked at each other for a moment. Something passed between them, something unspoken but felt. Then Natalie took Daisy's hand and they left. Derek stood with Lila beside him, watching them walk away. Daddy. Yes, honey. You like them, don't you? Derek looked at his daughter. I do. Do you? I do too. A lot. That's good. Lila smiled and took his hand. As they walked back to the car, Derek realized something. For the first time in 5 years, the future didn't seem so scary. It didn't seem so empty. It seemed possible. The following days passed differently. Derek continued to go out with Lila. Parks, ice cream shops, bookstores. Simple places where she smiled. And he learned to be a real father. And always, somehow, they would run into Natalie and Daisy. Sometimes it was planned. Sometimes it was a coincidence. But it happened. And each time it happened, it became more natural, easier, more right. One Friday afternoon, Derek was in his office when he picked up the phone and called Natalie. He'd had her number since Christmas dinner but rarely used it. He preferred the casual encounters, but today was different. "Hello?" Her voice sounded surprised. "Hi, Natalie. It's Derek." "Hi. Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine. Look, I wanted to talk to you about something. Can it be in person?" There was a pause. "Of course. When?" "This afternoon. I can pick you and Daisy up. Lila is dying to see her friend." Natalie laughed. "Okay, we'll be home. I'll send the location in a bit and pick you up at 5. "Perfect." Derek hung up and stared at the phone for a moment. Then he called Anne, his secretary. "Dan, I need you to prepare some documents for me." At 5 o'clock sharp, Derek pulled up in front of a modest building, 4 floors, worn paint, but clean. He sent a text. Minutes later, Natalie and Daisy appeared at the door. Natalie wore a simple navy blue dress, Daisy jeans and a pink t-shirt. Their blonde hair shone in the afternoon sun. Lila waved from the car window. "Daisy!" Daisy ran and got into the back seat with Lila. The two hugged as if they hadn't seen each other in weeks. Natalie got in the front, a little awkwardly. "Hi." "Hi." Derek smiled. "Thanks for agreeing." "Of course, where are we going?" "I thought we could go to the park. The girls can play, we can talk." "Sounds good." The drive was filled with the excited voices of the girls in the back seat. They chattered non-stop, laughing, making up stories. Natalie looked out the window, calm. From time to time, she exchanged glances with Derek. He seemed thoughtful. They arrived at the park. The girls ran out to the swings. Derek and Natalie sat on their usual bench, watching. "So," Natalie began, "you said you wanted to talk about something." Derek took a deep breath. He had rehearsed this in his head several times, but now the words seemed difficult. "Yeah, I want to help you." Natalie tensed up. "Derek, we've already talked about this. I don't want charity." "It's not charity," he interrupted her, looking directly into her eyes. "It's an opportunity." Natalie frowned. "What do you mean?" "I want to offer you a job at my company." The silence that followed was heavy. Natalie blinked, processing. "Say, a job?" "Yes, at Harrington Enterprises." "Derek, I sell candy at a traffic light. I don't have the qualifications to work at a company like yours." "You have something better than qualifications." Derek turned to face her. "You have determination. You have a work ethic. You're raising a daughter on your own. You work every day. You never give up. You never complain. That's worth more than any diploma." Natalie shook her head. "Toys, but I don't know how to do anything corporate. I don't know how to use a computer very well. I don't know." "You'll learn. I know you will." His voice was firm. "I trust you, Natalie." She looked at him, her eyes starting to get watery. "Why? Why would you do this?" "Because you deserve it. Because your daughter deserves it. And because—" Derek paused. "Because you two showed me something I had forgotten. You showed me that it's worth it to be present. It's worth it to try. And I want to give that back." Natalie wiped away a tear that had escaped. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll accept." She was quiet for a long moment. She looked at Daisy, who was laughing on the swing next to Lila. "What kind of job would it be?" "Administrative and filing, organizing, reception. Simple things at first. You'll learn the rest as you go. Business hours, a fixed salary, benefits, everything by the book." Natalie bit her lip. "Would I be able to pick Daisy up from school?" "You would." "We can adjust the schedule for that." "What if I'm not good enough?" "You will be." Derek took her hand. "I know you will be." Natalie looked at his hand on hers, then at his face. There was sincerity there. It wasn't pity. It wasn't charity. It was respect. "Okay," she said, her voice trembling. "I accept." Derek smiled. A huge, genuine smile. "Really? Really?" Natalie started to cry, but they were tears of relief, of hope. "Thank you. Thank you so much. You don't have to thank me. You're going to work. You're going to earn it. It will be fair. Natalie laughed through her tears. When do I start? Monday? So soon? Why wait? She shook her head in disbelief. I can't believe this is happening. Believe it, it's real. The girls came running over, out of breath. Mommy, are you crying? Daisy asked, worried. I am, honey, but they're happy tears. Why? Natalie looked at Derek. He nodded, encouragingly. Because Uncle Derek offered me a job. Daisy's eyes widened. Really? Really? You're going to work with him? I am. Daisy jumped, celebrating. So we're going to see Lila more often? I think so. The two girls hugged, shouting with joy. Derek and Natalie exchanged glances. There was gratitude there, but also something more. Something neither of them was ready to name yet. On Monday, Natalie arrived at Harrington Enterprises at 8 in the morning. She wore a simple but neat outfit. Black pants, a white blouse. Her hair was up in a bun. Her hands were trembling slightly. Derek was waiting for her at the reception. Ready? I think so. Come on, I'll introduce you to everyone. He took her through the floors. Introduced her to Annis, the secretary, to James, the CFO, to other employees whose names she tried to memorize but knew she would forget. Everyone was kind. No one treated her differently. Derek took her to a small but comfortable room, a desk, a computer, an ergonomic chair. This is your space. Natalie looked around, moved. Mine. Yours. She ran her fingers over the desk. It's the first time I've had a desk, a place of my own. Derek smiled. Then welcome. The first few weeks were hard. Natalie made mistakes. She filed documents in the wrong place. It took her too long to understand the computer system. She stayed late, trying to make up for it, but no one complained. Derek was patient. He explained as many times as necessary. Anne helped too, always with a smile, and Natalie learned quickly. With her first paycheck, she cried. Sitting at her desk, looking at the pay stub, the tears fell. It was double what she made selling candy at the traffic light for a whole month. And it was earned with dignity. It was hers. Meanwhile, Derek's routine changed completely. He rearranged his schedule. He left the office at 5, not 9. He had dinner with Lila every day. He played with her before bed, read her stories. He was present, and Lila was different, happier, lighter, more of a child. On weekends, the four of them would meet. Parks, movies, picnics, simple places where the girls ran and the adults talked. Daisy and Lila became inseparable, best friends, sisters at heart. Natalie and Derek talked more and more about work, about the girls, about life. And something grew between them. Admiration, respect, and maybe, just maybe, something more. One Saturday afternoon, they were at the park again. The girls were playing hide-and-seek among the trees. Natalie watched them, smiling. I've never seen Daisy so happy. Lila either. Thank you, Derek, for everything. You've already thanked me 1,000 times, and I'll thank you 1,000 more. She looked at him. You've changed our lives. You've changed mine too. They stayed like that for a moment, looking at each other. It wasn't love yet, but it was the beginning of something, something real, something possible, something that maybe could turn into more. The girls came running, sweaty and happy. Daddy, can we have ice cream? Lila asked. You can. Yay! The four of them walked to the ice cream shop. The girls in front, holding hands. Derek and Natalie behind, and for the first time in a long time, none of them felt alone. Natalie had a job. She had dignity. She had a future. Derek had his daughter back. He had purpose. He had presence. And together, the four of them had something none of them expected to find. A family, not perfect, not traditional, but real and full of love. In the following weeks, the routine continued. Natalie worked, Derek was present, the girls played, and slowly, almost without noticing, they began to fit together, like pieces of a puzzle that had finally found their places. Natalie would arrive at the office and Derek would already have coffee waiting. Derek would leave early, and Natalie would help organize everything beforehand. The girls had scheduled playdates every Wednesday and every weekend, and the adults talked more, better, deeper, about dreams, about fears, about the past and the future. And something was growing, slowly, but it was growing. One Thursday evening, Derek was in his office finishing some documents when Natalie knocked on the door. "Can I come in?" "Of course," she entered, holding a folder. "I finished those files you asked for, already, but there were so many." "I know, but I wanted to get ahead." Derek took the folder and flipped through it. Everything was perfect. Organized. Complete. "You're good at this," Natalie smiled. "I'm learning." "No, you're really good." She looked flustered. "Thank you." There was a comfortable silence. "Natalie?" "Yes?" "I wanted to tell you that you've done more for me than you can imagine." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "You showed me that it's possible to start over, that you can be better, that it's not too late." Natalie looked at him, her eyes were soft. "You did the same for me." They stayed like that, looking at each other, and something passed between them. Something neither of them was ready to name, but it was there, and it was growing, every day, with every conversation, with every glance. Natalie left the office. Derek stayed there, thoughtful. For the first time in 5 years, he no longer felt trapped by the past. He felt open to the future, and that future, perhaps, included more than he imagined. The following weekend, the four of them went to the zoo. The girls ran from one enclosure to another, pointing at animals, laughing, taking pictures. Derek and Natalie walked behind, watching. "For they really look like sisters," Natalie commented. "They do. Do you think they notice?" "Notice what?" Natalie looked at him. That us." She didn't finish the sentence, but Derek understood. "I think so," he said softly. "I think they notice before we do." Natalie smiled, a small but meaningful smile, and they continued walking, side by side, not holding hands, not yet, but close, very close, and it was enough, for now, because they had time, they had patience, and they had something that was worth more than rushing. They had certainty that this, whatever it was real, and it was worth it. 3 months had passed since Natalie started working at Harrington Enterprises. 3 months that changed everything. The routine had settled in naturally. Natalie worked from Monday to Friday, always leaving in time to pick up Daisy from school. Derek completely reorganized his schedule, prioritizing being present for Lila, and on weekends, the four of them would meet always, parks, movies, picnics, simple places where the girls laughed and the adults talked, and something was growing between them, slowly, without rush, but it was growing. One Friday afternoon, Derek left the office early. So did Natalie. He offered her a ride, as he always did. "Want to come over to my place?" Derek asked as he drove. "The girls can play. I'll make dinner." Natalie smiled. That sounds nice." They picked up the girls from school. Lila and Daisy came out together, holding hands, chatting excitedly. "Dad, the teacher said our drawing was the most beautiful," Lila announced. "It was a house with flowers," Daisy added. At the mansion, the girls ran up to the playroom. Derek and Natalie went to the kitchen. "What are you going to make?" Natalie asked. "I was thinking pasta, nothing too fancy." "Can I help?" "Of course." They worked side by side. Derek cooked. Natalie prepared the salad. They talked about their day, about work, about the girls. There was an intimacy there, comfortable, natural, as if it had always been this way. "Thank you for today," Natalie said. Derek looked at her. "Why, for including us, for making Daisy feel like she's part of something." "She is part of something." Derek held her gaze. "You both are." There was a silence, charged, meaningful. Natalie smiled. "Thank you." After dinner, they all went to the living room. The girls threw themselves onto the large sofa, laughing, telling stories. Derek and Natalie sat in the armchairs, watching, exchanging knowing glances. The sun was beginning to set, streaming through the windows and painting everything gold. Soft music was playing. The girls were laughing. The house was full of life. and Derek realized this was home. Lila got up and went to the window. Daisy followed her. The two stood there talking quietly. Derek and Natalie remained in the living room. He asked about a project she was organizing. She told him about it, excited. He praised her. "You have a talent for this," Derek said. "I think it's just the desire to do it right." "It's both." They looked at each other, and something passed between them. Something that had been growing for weeks. Over by the window, Lila was watching, her father talking with Natalie, both of them smiling, Daisy beside her, everyone together. "Do you like coming here?" Lila asked. "I love it," Daisy replied. "Your house is cool and your dad is really nice." "He's changed," Lila said. "He used to be busy all the time. Now he plays with me." "My mum has changed too," Daisy shared. "She's happier." Lila looked back into the room. "Daisy?" "Yeah. Do you think we could be real sisters one day?" Daisy's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. I just think it would be nice." "It would be really nice," Daisy agreed, excited. The two giggled softly. Then, Lila did something she had been thinking about for days. She walked away from the window and into the living room. Slowly, she stopped between her father and Natalie. Derek noticed. "What is it, honey?" Lila was quiet for a moment. Daisy had come with her. And then, in a soft but firm voice, Lila whispered, "It would be nice if we could be a family." The world stopped. Derek sat motionless, staring at his daughter, at those eyes full of hope. Natalie held her breath. Daisy looked at everyone, hopeful. Lila continued, gaining courage. "We already seem like a family. We laugh together. We eat together. We play together." She looked at her father. "You're happy when they're here, I can see it." Derek felt a lump form in his throat. "And Auntie Natalie is happy too," Lila continued. "She smiles a lot when she's with you, Dad. And Daisy is my best friend, my sister at heart." Natalie wiped away a tear that had escaped. Derek looked at his daughter, then at Natalie. She looked back, her eyes shining. There was no demand there, no pressure, just truth. And something more, something that had been growing for months. Derek didn't promise anything. He didn't make any declarations. He just held out his hand to his daughter. Lila came closer. He pulled her near, holding her hand tightly, then slowly, he looked at Natalie and held out his other hand. Natalie hesitated for a second. Her eyes filled with more tears, but she stood up and took his hand. Their hands met, warm, firm, real, and there, the four of them stood, connected. Daisy ran and hugged her mother's leg with one arm and Derek's leg with the other. Lila did the same on the other side. There were no impossible promises. There were no guarantees, but there was something real, something that was forming. Slowly. "We already are a family," Derek said softly, his voice hoarse. "Maybe not in the traditional way, but we are." Lila smiled, a huge, genuine smile. Natalie squeezed his hand, moved, and they stayed like that for a long moment, just feeling. It wasn't a closed ending. There was no cinematic kiss or marriage proposal. There were no absolute certainties. It was just a beginning, real, honest, imperfect. A beginning of something that none of them knew where it would lead, but that they all wanted to find out, together, in their own time, theirs. As the sun set and the room was lit only by soft lights, the four of them were still there, talking, laughing, planning the weekend, like a family, that maybe, just maybe, was starting to become real. That night, when Natalie and Daisy left, Derek and Lila stood at the door, waving. "Daddy?" "Yes, honey. Are we going to be a real family?" Derek looked at his daughter. He stroked her hair. "We already are, honey. In our own way. And who knows? Maybe we'll become even more." Lila smiled. "I want that." "Me too." They went inside. Derek went up with Lila to her room. "Put her to bed." "Good night, my daughter." "Good night, Daddy." She held his hand. "Today was the best day. For me, too." He kissed her forehead and left. In the hallway, he stopped. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel the weight of the past. He felt the lightness of what was to come. In his own room, Derek looked at the picture frame on his nightstand. His wife's face looked back at him, smiling. He picked up the frame, held it for a moment. "Thank you," he whispered, "for Lila. For everything." There was no more pain when he looked at her, just gratitude and the certainty that he was ready to honor the past without being trapped by it, ready to build a future, ready to love again, if it came to that, in its own time. He put the photo back and lay down, and as he closed his eyes, he thought of 4 people. Of 2 blonde girls who had become sisters at heart, of a strong woman who had shown him that starting over was possible, and of himself, who had finally learned to be present. Because maybe, just maybe, those 4 people were truly becoming what Lila had said, a family, in their own way, in their own time, but real. And that was all that mattered. The mansion was no longer empty. The house was no longer silent. And for the first time in 5 years, Derek Harrington wasn't just existing, he was living. For real. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like, because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in